The constant anxiety that I was placing on myself, being in fear when even looking at somebody, that I was going to think sinful thoughts, and the internalization of this meta-narrative began to wear down on me. And I began to turn myself inward even more than I already had. So keep in mind that I was already being homeschooled during this time, and had very little activity outside of uh, going to church and his club, which was our church's version of a Awana at that point, and church attendance. So after that summer, when I turned 15, I stopped volunteering down at the church, and no one knew the real reason why that was. And it was because I began feeling like a complete moral hypocrite. And I also couldn't let anybody find out about this problem, this sin problem, because this was the one thing which people didn't talk about. It was that bad. I was afraid that if anybody found out, that I would be excoriated and that I would be expelled from the community, basically handed over to Satan. That's what I was worried about, and that was something I felt I had to avoid at all costs. So nobody could know the truth about me. So I made sure to keep it quiet. Around that time, I also began overeating compulsively as a coping mechanism for the anxiety which I was placing on myself. And, there were a couple instances there where I got caught, and I didn't want to admit what was going on because, again, people really couldn't know what was really going on inside. They could not know that. So people really had no idea why I was doing what I was doing. And the year after that, when I was turning 16, I stopped exercising every day because I was just beginning to lose the will to do things. That's probably the easiest way to put it, because more and more I was beginning to feel like I was a worthless piece of human garbage. And that fall, I stopped going to that Christian Taekwondo thing. And, I remember my instructor asking after the summer had passed why I wasn't going. Because it's like they understood that, okay, I might want to take the summer off, but now it's kind of time to get back to stuff. And I kind of brushed it off because, again, people couldn't know my real motivations. And also something which began to be fed into the meta-narrative at this point, turning 17 and then 18 years old, was the need to find out what God's plan for my life was. And this was primarily because I had obviously already royally screwed things up to the point where I felt I needed a direct intervention from God in order to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And also believing that if I hadn't heard yet from God on what I was supposed to do, that I was doing something in order to block his communication. And I had a pretty good explanation for that, didn't I? That sinful thoughts running through my head all the time. That's what was blocking his message to me. After I became too old to continue in the His Club program, I began helping out in the nursery on those nights, working with infants and 2-year-olds of the adults who were involved in that ministry. And that's something which I genuinely enjoyed doing. I remember people telling me that I was good with little kids, and I felt that I was contributing positively. But the summer when I turned 18, I decided that I wasn't going to go back when his club resumed in the fall. And that was because I felt like a complete hypocrite, you know? I was such a complete moral failure that I couldn't be around in that capacity anymore until I got things straight with God. You know, I felt that I was too dirty to continue. So I left. And when I turned 18, the option became available to me to seek help outside of the church for the issues I was dealing with. But it really didn't feel like I had a conscious choice in the matter, because I'd gotten it ingrained that I already knew the truth. you know if I was going to go somewhere other than the church for help, I was going to be told things that went against the Bible, and were going to lead me astray and lead me down a path of destruction. So rather than taking the opportunity to get out, I just made an effort to continue to turn myself even more inward and make myself more and more unavailable to other people. So at that point, other than going to work, the only real communication I had with the outside world was going to church. And this is the period where I kind of started wandering and waiting when God was going to tell me what I was supposed to do next.